20, 2024, News Report 1. According to Bloomberg, the assessment of the Chinese attitude towards the U.S. election by U.S. intelligence agencies shows that China believes that neither Biden nor Trump winning the election would be beneficial to China. Both presidential candidates would adopt a strategy to contain China and prevent its rise. The first U.S. presidential debate will be held next week. Bloomberg cited U.S. officials on June 20 as saying that the U.S. intelligence community's assessment is that China does not have a clear preference for either candidate. Bloomberg believes that this conclusion indicates that despite increased high-level interactions between China and the U.S. recently, the long-term trend of U.S.-China relations is still downward. Analysts believe that Biden is a Cold War warrior, and China believes that he does not care if the world falls into conflict. Trump may use sanctions or tariffs to demonstrate his America First agenda, making China believe that even if Trump is elected, his unpredictable policies will become a hallmark of his administration. Trump has said he would impose a 60% tariff on Chinese goods. However, Chinese officials also believe that Trump's re-election may weaken U.S. relations with allies, which would be an opportunity for China. In addition, Chinese officials also stated that Trump is more willing than Biden to make deals, so if China makes concessions in trade, Trump may make concessions on sensitive issues such as Taiwan. China believes that Biden's re-election will not be reassuring to China, as Biden will push to strengthen regional partnerships to counter China. Over the past 4 years, Biden has established and strengthened the Quad Security Dialogue Mechanism and trilateral security partnerships, through which the United States has sought to contain China's expanding influence in the Indo-Pacific region. News Report 2. A satellite image circulating on a Chinese military forum recently shows that the Jiangnan shipyard in Shanghai is building a Coast Guard ship similar in appearance to the Navy's Type 052D destroyer. Compared with the nearby Type 052D destroyer, this Coast Guard ship is about 150 meters long, with an estimated displacement of 7,000 tons, and has more powerful propulsion, as well as a wider and stronger hull space, capable of performing long-distance maritime patrol missions. Compared with the Type 052D missile destroyer, this Coast Guard ship only reserves space for installing naval guns and does not reserve space for vertical launchers, indicating that this ship is not a combat ship but a large Coast Guard ship. Compared with China's current Coast Guard ships, this ship is larger in size, better equipped, and able to operate helicopters and drones, functions that existing Chinese Coast Guard ships do not have. Analysts believe that this ship is a new type of Coast Guard ship built by China on the Type 052D destroyer platform. Currently, China's main Coast Guard ships include two 1,200-ton Coast Guard ships, which are the largest tonnage Coast Guard enforcement ships in the world, equipped with 76mm naval guns. In addition, there are 22 1,440-ton Coast Guard ships, which are converted from the 056-2-1 destroyer and also equipped with 76mm naval guns. Over the past year, conflicts between China and its neighboring countries have escalated continuously. Building such a large Coast Guard ship may deepen tensions with neighboring countries. China's Coast Guard ships have extensive law enforcement powers, including the ability to detain ships and crew. The construction of such a huge Coast Guard ship will undoubtedly lead to further tensions in relations with neighboring countries. This behavior is considered reckless and detrimental to China. News Report 3. On June 17, Chinese Coast Guard intentionally rammed a Philippine supply ship at Renai Reef, causing injuries to Philippine Navy soldiers and looting supplies from the ship, damaging Philippine vessels and equipment. According to Taiwan's Central News Agency, on June 19, South Korean Foreign Ministry officials expressed concern over this dangerous behavior and hoped that all parties concerned would uphold maritime order based on principles of peace, stability, and security. In response to South Korea's statement, the Chinese embassy in South Korea requested South Korea to choose its words carefully. According to China News Service, On June 19, the Chinese embassy in South Korea issued a statement expressing strong dissatisfaction and firm opposition to South Korean diplomats' erroneous remarks on the South China Sea issue. The statement pointed out that South Korea is not a party to the South China Sea issue, yet it frequently makes irresponsible comments on the issue, which is not conducive to maintaining peace and stability in the South China Sea or to the development of China-South Korea relations. China urges South Korea to act with caution to avoid damaging bilateral relations. After the conflict between China and the Philippines at Renai Reef on June 17, both the United States and the United Kingdom strongly condemned China, calling its actions unreasonable, in violation of international law, and exacerbating regional tensions. Japan also expressed concern over China's illegal maritime claims and highly praised the Philippines for adhering to international law and international court rulings. Compared with the strong attitudes of the United States, the United Kingdom, and Japan, South Korea's attitude appeared more moderate. China did not express dissatisfaction with the United States, the United Kingdom, and Japan but reacted strongly to South Korea, which was interpreted as bullying the weak and fearing the strong. News Report 4. According to the South Korean news agency, on June 20, South Korea detained a cargo ship in its territorial waters for violating UN Security Council resolutions against North Korea. According to sources, the cargo ship was carrying coal and iron ore from Russia to China, passing through North Korea. This situation is rare. UN Security Council resolutions allow countries to detain, inspect, and intercept vessels that violate sanctions against North Korea in their territorial waters. Previously, on March 30, a cargo ship named Dae was also intercepted in South Korea for violating sanctions against North Korea. The captain of the Dae is Chinese, and the crew includes Chinese and Indonesian nationals. The Dae is currently anchored in the Busan Guidance Zone, with the captain still detained on board. UN reports show that after being subjected to international sanctions, North Korea engages in activities to evade sanctions in South Korea through Chinese intermediaries and funds obtained. For example, Chinese cargo ships transport North Korean goods to Chinese ports. In addition, North Korean hackers launder money through Chinese intermediaries by stealing or extorting funds. In addition, U.S. researchers have found that Russia's arms trade involves importing used Japanese CNC machines from a company in Shenzhen, China, called Bensonzeng. These CNC machines, produced by Jinshan Company, are used to manufacture weapons, including components for cruise missiles. 60% of Jinshan's CNC machines are sold to China, and Russia purchases these relatively new CNC machines from China. News Report 5. The Liberty Times reported that on June 20, the spokesperson for Taiwan's Mainland Affairs Council, Liang Wenjie, stated at a routine press conference that in the past year, 8 retired military and police personnel from Taiwan had been detained after going to China, with varying lengths of detention. The Mainland Affairs Council believes that the purpose of the Chinese government's actions is twofold: first, to understand the work content of these retired military and police personnel during their service, including their colleagues and network; second, to win over and recruit these retired military and police personnel to work for China. Liang Wenjie also stated that not only retired military and police personnel but also Taiwanese businessmen and religious figures may be detained in China. He called on Taiwanese people with specific identities to be more cautious when traveling to China. On June 6, the Mainland Affairs Council revealed that a Taiwanese tour group member was taken away for investigation while traveling in China and was not released until several days later. On March 17, a sergeant surnamed Hu from Kinmen got lost while fishing in the waters of Kinmen and was detained by Chinese Coast Guard, with no whereabouts for 3 months. Therefore, Liang Wenjie reminded Taiwanese people to carefully consider the risks when traveling to mainland China. News Report 6. Xinhua news agency reported on June 20 that China and Malaysia have issued a joint statement titled Joint Statement between China and Malaysia on Deepening and Enhancing Comprehensive Strategic Partnership, Building a China-Malaysia Community of Shared Future. The joint statement was signed and issued by Chinese Premier Li Keqiang and Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim after their talks. The main contents of the joint statement include 1. Expanding cooperation in the defense industry. 2. China actively supports Malaysia in promoting domestic transportation and infrastructure cooperation, contributing to the realization of the Pan-Asian Railway Vision, a key project planned by China in Southeast Asia. 3. China hopes to restart the high-speed rail project from Malaysia to Singapore. 4. Promoting the East Coast Rail Link in Malaysia and bilateral cooperation projects on raw materials, both key projects of the Belt and Road Initiative. 5. Malaysia welcomes China's application to join the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership, CPTPP. 6. China is willing to import more agricultural products, electronic products, and halal food from Malaysia. 7. China will extend the visa-free policy for Malaysian citizens until the end of next year, and Malaysia will extend the visa-free policy for Chinese citizens until the end of 2026. This joint statement marks a further deepening of cooperation between China and Malaysia in various fields, reflecting the firm commitment of both sides to building a community of shared future between China and Malaysia. News Report 7. Xinhua news agency reported that on June 19, Chinese President Xi Jinping conducted an inspection and research in the Ningxia Hui Autonomous Region. Last year, Xi Jinping visited the Changqing Huayuan community in Yinchuan City to understand the community's efforts to promote interaction and integration among residents of all ethnic groups, which is part of the Communist Party of China's policy to promote the integration of ethnic minorities. The Changqing Huayuan community is regarded by the Chinese government as a model community for ethnic unity. Xi Jinping stated during the visit that the 56 ethnic groups are united to form the Chinese nation, which is a big family, and he sees himself as the head of the family. Earlier, on June 18, Xi Jinping visited Qinghai Province. At the Guoluo Nationality Middle School in Xining City, Xi Jinping learned about the education on strengthening the awareness of the Chinese nation's community. He also visited the Longwu Monastery to understand the promotion of the patriotic and religious traditions of Tibetan Buddhism. Over the past decade, since the proposal of the awareness of the Chinese nation's community at the Second Central Xinjiang Work Conference in May 2014, Xi Jinping has repeatedly emphasized this awareness on different occasions. However, in reality, the living conditions of ethnic minorities such as the Uyghurs in Xinjiang are very difficult. Many families are forced to live with Han Chinese and cannot resist, otherwise they will face more severe sanctions. In recent years, the Chinese government has taken extremely harsh measures in religious policies, promoting the Sinicization of religions. They have arrested religious leaders, prevented religious gatherings, required religious sites to raise the national flag and display slogans of loving the party and the country, and removed the features of religious buildings. For example, the cross of Christian churches has been removed, and the domes of mosques have been changed to traditional flying eaves. This series of measures has been basically completed in the past few years. News Report 8. According to the U.S. Economic Report, Russian President Vladimir Putin visited Vietnam on June 20. Putin arrived in Hanoi from North Korea in the early morning of the same day and was greeted by Vietnamese Deputy Prime Minister Tran Hong Ha and Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Communist Party of Vietnam, Lu Hieu Chung, which was an unusual reception. This is Putin's fifth visit to Vietnam, 7 years after his last visit. In North Korea, he was greeted by Kim Jong-un himself at the airport, while in Vietnam, he was greeted by the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister. On the morning of June 20, Vietnamese President Nguyen Xuan Phuc held a welcome ceremony for Putin at the Presidential Palace in Hanoi, followed by a meeting lasting an hour and a half. Putin stated during the meeting that strengthening the comprehensive strategic partnership with Vietnam is a priority for Russia. Last year, bilateral trade between Russia and Vietnam increased by 8%, and Russian universities have trained over 75,000 experts for Vietnam over the years. Putin also invited Nguyen Xuan Phuc to attend the celebration of the 80th anniversary of the victory in the Great Patriotic War in May next year. Nguyen Xuan Phuc stated that Vietnam attaches great importance to developing its strategic partnership with Russia and regards Russia as a priority direction in Vietnam's foreign policy. The two sides subsequently issued a joint statement, expressing their willingness to promote bilateral trade and investment, strengthen defense and security cooperation without forming alliances or reaching agreements. Putin also held separate meetings with Nguyen Phu Trong, General Secretary of the Communist Party of Vietnam, Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh, and National Assembly Chairman Vang Dinh Hue. Russian officials previously stated that Putin's visit to Vietnam this time will focus on economic, educational, and energy issues. Karen Otong, Russia's trade representative to Vietnam, stated that Russia and Vietnam urgently need to resolve the issue of bank currency settlements, which is not only a problem between Russia and Vietnam, but also a problem between Russia and all its trading partners, as the United States has revoked the U.S. dollar settlement authority of Russian financial institutions, which has had a serious impact on Russia's trade. News Report 9. CBS reported that on June 20, the South Korean presidential office announced that South Korea would reconsider exporting weapons to Ukraine. The reason for this decision is the Strategic Cooperation Treaty signed between Russia and North Korea on June 19, which stipulates that if either Russia or North Korea is invaded, the other will provide assistance. Since South Korea and North Korea have never signed a peace treaty, the Korean War has not officially ended under international law. If conflict were to occur between South Korea and North Korea, Russia would assist North Korea against South Korea, which has greatly stimulated South Korea's reaction. Following the signing of the Strategic Cooperation Treaty between Russia and North Korea, the South Korean presidential office released this news. South Korea is the 10th largest arms exporter globally, but according to South Korean regulations, it is not allowed to provide weapons to either party involved in an ongoing war. Despite requests from the United States and Ukraine for South Korea to support Ukraine's weapon needs, South Korea has not agreed. Nevertheless, South Korea later provided Ukraine with over 1 million artillery shells through other channels. The cooperation between Russia and North Korea has prompted South Korea to reconsider its policy. South Korea has signed multi-billion-dollar arms sales contracts with European countries, including selling tanks and howitzers to Poland, an ally of Ukraine. If South Korea decides to sell weapons to Ukraine, it would be of great help to Ukraine, as South Korea's production capacity is very large, something Western countries cannot easily match. News Report 10. Nikkei Asia reported that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ecuador announced that it would temporarily suspend its visa-free policy for Chinese citizens starting on July 1, cutting off one route for Chinese people to travel to the United States. Although Nikkei Asia believes this barrier is only temporary and that Chinese people will find other ways to continue traveling to the United States, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ecuador stated that the number of illegal immigrants entering the United States through Ecuador has significantly increased, leading to the decision to suspend the visa-free entry for Chinese citizens. Immigration lawyer Chen Chuang stated that Ecuador canceling its visa-free policy for Chinese people will only have a short-term impact, as many travel agencies will arrange for Chinese travelers to apply for Japanese, British, or Schengen visas, allowing them to fly directly from these countries to Mexico and then enter according to Mexico's regulations. However, the cost of this route to the United States via Mexico is much higher than going directly through Ecuador. He pointed out that although canceling the visa-free policy increases the cost of this route, the trend of Chinese travelers using this route is unlikely to stop easily. Chen Chuang also mentioned that an executive order signed by current U.S. President Biden stipulates that once the number of asylum applicants exceeds a certain number, the acceptance of asylum applications will be suspended, which will also affect Chinese people using this route to enter the United States. News Report 11. Radio France Internationale, RFI, reported that an accident occurred during the graduation ceremony of the Law School of Fudan University in Shanghai on June 19. A Taiwanese graduate suddenly punched a teacher on the stage while receiving his diploma, causing the teacher's glasses and hat to fall off. The student then left the stage in the ensuing chaos. Afterwards, the student posted an apology on WeChat Moments, stating that he had intended to punch the dean of the law school but had hit the wrong person. According to reports, the student had issued a statement of withdrawal from the university in January this year, claiming that the academic atmosphere and officialdom at Fudan University were bad. The security office of Fudan University stated that the police had taken the student away for investigation, and the teacher who was punched had gone to the hospital for a checkup. News Report 12. June 20 is World Refugee Day. Several human rights groups and legislators in Taiwan held a press conference, urging the Taiwan government and legislature to quickly pass a refugee law and establish a complete refugee protection system. According to the Mainland Affairs Council, MAC, since the anti-extradition movement, 130 Hong Kong people have sought refuge in Taiwan, all of whom have been granted protection by the MAC through project-based means. Wang Shi, Deputy Secretary General of the Taiwan Association for Human Rights, pointed out that Taiwan has the Act governing relations between the people of the Taiwan area and the mainland area, Hong Kong and Macau regulations, and Hong Kong people are not foreigners but residents of the Republic of China in legal terms. However, the protection provided by the MAC for Hong Kong people only allows them to stay in Taiwan, without guaranteeing their long-term legal residence, work, medical care, and other rights. Democratic Progressive Party, DPP, legislator Shen Boyong stated that none of the refugee law drafts proposed by various parties include people from Hong Kong and Macau. Even if a draft becomes law, Hong Kong people seeking refuge would still not be able to stay in Taiwan under the refugee law. He proposed two solutions: first, to include Hong Kong people in the draft of the refugee law; second, for the government to implement Article 18 of the Hong Kong and Macau regulations, providing necessary assistance to Hong Kong and Macau residents who are threatened with security and freedom for political reasons.